Beware when they cleverly take away ownership rights. In this episode, I'm going to address the secret to American wealth is being destroyed. How sad is that? You're going to understand why next. Hi, my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been helping people take ownership of their brighter future now for more than 4.5 decades. So the purpose of this episode is to share with you the secret of American wealth and how you can use it to your benefit for those that you care about. So stay with me to the end. I have a special gift for you. And I want you to get enlightened on some concepts that a lot of people don't take time to think about or to really understand. So the secret to American wealth is in ownership. Now, when we talk about ownership, we're talking about deeds to property, titles to property or automobiles or assets, articles of incorporation where you own a business. Many times I will ask this question: when was the last time you washed a rental car or changed the oil on a rental car? People don't wash rental cars. They wash their own car. See, we take care of things that we own. If you own a home, you'll take better care of it than if you rent a home. That's why people encourage you to own a home. You'll take better care of it. If you've ever rented property, you notice that a lot of times people abuse rentals. When you take ownership for your own retirement, instead of relying on the government to provide it for you, you will be far better off, because Social Security was designed to try to take care of people who would not take ownership for their own retirement. When did Social Security come out? During the Industrial Revolution. Did you know that? When the factories started to mass produce cars and electronics and so forth, many times they would retire worn out equipment. The word retire means put out of use. Now, I've never liked the word, but see, they started to put people out of use. They would retire people and bring in younger, cheaper labor. And so when people were put out of use, because years ago, farmers, they didn't retire. They worked in the fields until the day they died. But all of a sudden, during the Industrial Revolution, they started to retire people, retire worn out equipment. And when people were put out of use, unless they understood how to redefine themselves in retirement, the average life expectancy was only 7 years. When people are put out of use, they die. Do you know, for a government worker, it was 6 years. For a military retiree put out of use, life expectancy was only 5 years. Social Security came out at that time, and the whole system was designed never to have to pay out benefits for more than an average of 7 years. Well, and now people are living longer and they're running up healthcare costs, and that's why the government is $130 trillion in debt in future Social Security and welfare benefits to those people. They deducted it from their paychecks. In my opinion, it's a train wreck waiting to happen. If they stopped withholding Social Security, FICA, and Medicare from current workers' paychecks, Social Security would be broke in about 9 months. And so the whole Social Security system is designed on taking from current workers to pay from the ones they deducted it from before. And so it's people that took ownership in their future that don't have to rely on Social Security or the government. But when you take ownership, you get tax breaks. That's why they give you tax incentives to sock away money in tax-deferred IRAs and 401ks. But I actually prefer to accumulate my money totally tax-free in what I call the laser fund. And people say, well, why is that totally tax-free? Because I'm taking total ownership, no matter what happens to me, if I live too long, if I die too soon, I will never have my wife as a widow or my children have to be a drain on society, relying on government to take care of them, because I have taken ownership in that myself by insuring myself and using my insurance policies not only to take care of them if I die, but if I live, it will take care of us as long as I live. If I live to be 120, that's why it's tax-free. I'm taking pressure off of the government because I'm taking ownership. See, the key to American wealth is self-reliance, taking ownership. If you take ownership to provide for your own health, instead of relying on the government to take care of your health, frankly, I think you'll be far better off than always relying on the government to provide things for you. Same thing with education, income, student loans, all of these things. When we become more and more dependent on government, I think we're heading the wrong direction. So when we talk about redistribution of wealth, because this seems to be sort of a buzzword right now, let's level the playing field. Let's redistribute. Let's create equity. Let's have equal distribution. Let's take from the rich and spread it out. Redistribute all this wealth and make things fair. And sometimes that fairness doctrine goes way, way too far to where pretty soon people begin to resent it. The people who really work hard on staying healthy and eating right and exercising are forced to pay for the people who choose not so good lifestyles and bad habits. That is what creates a lot of turmoil in this country. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have affordable health care available to everybody, but we ought to reward those people who take ownership, who take pressure off of the government to have to provide everything for everybody. Does that make sense? Now, I fear that this secret to American wealth, ownership, is being destroyed. If you watch some of the initiatives that are being proposed, they're wanting to take away more and more of the ownership or the independence and create dependence. They're wanting to take and redistribute that as people die or as they sell their assets. The government wants to take 50, 60, and 70% of it and redistribute that. And pretty soon the incentives are gone and the family is left with hardly 30 cents on the dollar to pass down to bless the lives of their family and children and grandchildren. So let me tell you what you can do to empower yourself so that your family will benefit and not outlive your money. But before I tell you that, if this is intriguing you, click share with a friend, like, subscribe to this Three-Dimensional Wealth YouTube channel. I post an in-depth answer or a strategy or concept almost on a daily basis. And stay with me to the end. I want to gift you a special empowerment tool that will bless not only your life, but those that you care about. So when we talk about how ownership is being transferred and that whenever we take ownership, we'll take better care of things, what we want to do is make sure we foster an attitude of responsibility and accountability, an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. And if you notice that when we have redistribution of wealth and we take it away 60 and 70 and 80%, because just about every wealthy person that I've ever advised, and I'm talking about some extremely successful people, they usually voluntarily contribute 30 and 40% of their income every single year, and also their assets at the end of the day to charitable causes that they support. You know, I have often asked audiences, you know what, here on the screen, and I will list the general categories of where the government allocates our tax dollars. Now, I don't show the percent or the pie. I just say, here's the general categories. And I say, now, if you voluntarily could choose how much of your social civic dollars, because we all must contribute back to society, okay? Most governmental systems in the world have a method whereby we must give back to society. And that normally comes in the form of taxes, right? Now, you can also give your time and talents. I explained that in another episode. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter whether the audience is made up of Republicans, Democrats, or both. When they voluntarily say, I want this much of my money to go here, 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 it is never close to how the government is allocating our tax dollars. So if you voluntarily could choose it, it never comes close to how the government is. My question is, how did we get here? So when you simply redistribute and reallocate and you leave it up to the government, it usually does not foster responsibility and accountability, nor does it encourage ownership. It discourages ownership, and that is the secret to American wealth. I don't want to see that happen. So if you would like to share these concepts and know how to take ownership of your brighter future and use some of the financial instruments that I've helped thousands of people use to empower their children, not outlive their money, and also to be able to transfer wealth down tax-free, please read and study one of my best-selling books. My most recent one is called The Laser Fund. Now, it's LASER. It's an acronym that stands for Liquid Assets Safely Earning Returns. And this is 300 pages. It's actually 2 books in one. This one is about 200 pages with 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs and explanations about how you can diversify and create the foundation to take ownership in a tax-free retirement and leave it behind tax-free to your heirs. But if you learn more by stories and examples, you flip it over and read this side. This is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 actual stories of how people have used this to teach their family members how to be responsible and accountable and always be self-reliant and take ownership. I would recommend you actually read both. Here's how you can claim your free copy. You go to laserfund.com or click on the link below and contribute a nominal amount toward the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost and I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a copy to you. But also explore some other options there on how to listen and learn and watch and learn. There's even an 18-hour masterclass on this, and also an opportunity to get a book bundle, this book and another book called Entitlement Abolition, where I talk about this very topic in more depth and detail. So you can get both of those books by simply paying for the priority shipping of both of those best-selling books. And I want you to be able to learn, take ownership, and teach those you care about those same principles.